Los Angeles, I'm and most Hollywood nights. She goes to California, oh, California.
What you say about Los Angeles?
LA got the people saying.
You're listening to Corner of the Galaxy on cornerofthegalaxy.com. Welcome to Corner of the Galaxy, the show that talks 100% LA Galaxy soccer. We're glad you could join us. Now it's time to sit back and relax as your hosts navigate through the twisting, turning, but never boring world of the five-time MLS Cup champion, LA Galaxy.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Corner of the Galaxy on cornerofthegalaxy.com. I'm your host, Josh Guesman, coming to you on a Thursday, August 22nd. LA Galaxy getting ready to start the league back up with Atlanta coming in on Saturday. We have a live show to talk to you about, but in surprise news, Marco Reus is available for selection. We're going to talk a little bit about that and tell you why that is absolutely nuts. We have a little bit inside information that we'll be able to share with that and tell you who were these geniuses that got this all done in a very short amount of time. So we got a lot to talk about, and we're excited to get you going. Somebody said 3 COGs in a week is a good week, so hopefully this is a good week. In order to help me do all that, we're glad to have him back from Texas. It is the man himself, Eric, the Portuguese Hammer Vieira. Eric, good day to you, sir.
Good day to you. It's, very hot out. You mentioned from Texas.
Yes.
Out here in Texas right now, it's finally cooling down. It got in the high 90s.
Oh, yes.
So a trip to Southern California could not come soon enough. So very much looking forward to this weekend for the third COG of the week. Again, what's better than 2 COGs? 3 COGs. So I think we're in good shape.
Some would say 3 is too many. I say 3 is just starting to have fun. That's what I say.
And then there's special guests and all these things. I heard, there's curtains happening. There's where it's AJ De La Garza and who else? Who could possibly be the mystery guest?
Who else?
Could it be Beyonce performing at the COG live show?
Could be.
I don't know.
She might be busy. I heard she was busy. So anyway, no, we are excited to have it. By the way, there's even more live show madness going on. Our friends Brownie put together some T-shirts for us. So I'm going to have 24 of these mystery T-shirts that you got, and they will be. I'm going to give them away. We're giving them away.
Yeah.
They gave them to me.
Practically giving them away.
They're giving them to me. I'm giving them to you. We're excited that we get to do all this. This is fun. I mean, by the way, you know what's fun right now, Eric? The LA Galaxy. I would just like to point out the LA Galaxy are fun. I don't know when it happened. I mean, it's been fun, right? This season has been fun.
We've talked about it over and over. Vibes FC is very much where the LA Galaxy are this season. So, it's seeming to get a lot sweeter. And I think with the Royce edition, we talked about that last week, and with Will Kuntz on talking about how the deal got done, and then now with him being able to play, I'm not going to say I told you so,
right?
But I had faith. Oh, you didn't have as much faith, but I had a lot of faith. That these people were going to move mountains to make things happen. So we, like I predicted, versus Atlanta United, pups at the pitch, COG live show, Marco Reus debut. What a weekend it's going to be.
What else do you need? Really? I mean, what else do you need?
Well, 3 points.
3 points would be great. It was funny. We got to hear from Maya Yoshida. We got to hear from John McCarthy. We got to hear from Greg Vanney today. And I think it was John McCarthy who was usually straight to the point whenever you get to stuff. He's like, what are you expecting out of Atlanta? He's like, 3 points. And it was like, he's like, yeah, that's what we want.
John.
Yeah. All right. Good job. But it is a focus, right? It is something. It's like, no. He goes, you can't take these. We can't think about the rest of the games. We have to take these one game at a time. Atlanta's up next. Keep it focused. Keep it going. I think Greg Vanney a little more expansive on that, sort of saying, hey, we want to be playing good soccer here in the last 8 games. He goes, so it's important for us to find our rhythm and then also possibly to integrate Marco Reus into that. We will talk about that here in just a second. Before we get, I want to talk about the live show just that way we get everybody keyed in. We'll probably talk about it a couple times tonight. Also, I think I'm going to have to yell at my wife here soon because I forgot somebody gave me a t-shirt and that I'm supposed to share with you guys all. and it's downstairs, and I forgot it. So maybe we could get Mrs. COG to throw it at me from the door. All right.
Mom, meatloaf.
Yes.
Give me that guy.
It is going to be that, and I'm expecting that it won't be met with all the grace that I'm sure I would
luck.
have. Whenever
You're going to get the T-shirt cannon right back at you. Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised. But there is some stuff that we have to talk about. Is Greg Vanney talked about integrating guys back into the thing, and by the way, at the press conference, which started at around 11 o'clock this morning and went till about 11:45. I think we were done, like 11:30 maybe we were even done. When we were doing that, Greg Vanney was fairly certain that Marco Reus was not going to be joining the LA Galaxy this weekend. I had put out earlier, and I think I put a tweet out that said, I'll give it 20%, right? A 20% chance. I said that on the podcast. I believe that. And then I revised that after this because I'm like, actually, it sounds like they're really trying. Maybe they pull it off. I'm going to move that to 30%. I'll give you 30% now that the LA Galaxy will be able to get Marco Reus in. And
still not a great percentage.
Well,
you're not, but you weren't wrong. I'm not saying you're
right.
wrong. I'm just saying there was hope because they were working, but there was a lot to do. If you've ever tried to get a passport or tried to get a package expedited, I think you probably know the frustration levels that you get. So I think that's just the realism of, listen, if this is a paperwork thing, it's not a soccer thing, it's not a need or a want thing. There's it's a political game, figuring out how to find the right person in the right building to make those things happen. So, kudos to the LA Galaxy front office for triggering the right levers.
Yeah, I mean, that's it. It's sort of about being able to push the right buttons at the right time. Well, before we get too far into that, because there's so much to talk about. There is and there isn't, right? Because we did a lot of this on Monday, but there is. We have stuff to talk about. Before we get too far into that, I want to get to our live show coming up on Saturday, because you have to remember, people need to know, you're getting on a plane. You're flying out here. You're going to be at the live show. This is happening.
This is happening. It's the real deal. Get to see everyone, press hands in the flesh, take pictures, kiss babies, like you say, pet dogs. Maybe
right.
get a few licks in.
Yeah.
Do they lick me? Do I lick them? I don't know. I left it open-ended on purpose.
Okay, good.
We'll see how that goes. I'm excited to be at Galaxy Park again. For those of you, I know it's on the opposite end where a lot of the action happens, but I think it's exciting to make that a thing also, because having checked it out, it's a great opportunity to share out and to kind of meet everyone and mingle. And when you're around soccer goals and the soccer pitch, there's just something about that. So being at Galaxy Park, that's something that's going to be super exciting. And then, of course, with the legend, AJ De La Garza, and then there's a new name on the poster, Tom Braun, president,
LA Galaxy president.
I mean, what else? Like you said, what else do you want? What more do you want?
I was hoping
the COG live show.
I was hoping Marco Reus would stop by whenever he wasn't going to play.
That would have been a good get.
I was angling that one, the whole deal, but we'll survive with just this. Here is the rundown for you when you are headed to the game. And I expect, quite honestly, for you to be there when the gates open at Galaxy Park. 3:30 meet and greet. That's when we're going to start. I think Alex Ruiz is also going to run around and play some futsal at some different courts as well. He's still trying to try out for the Galaxy.
Do I bring my boots?
You can. Go ahead.
Right.
Don't hurt yourself before the game. So
I'm definitely going to pull something.
Yeah, exactly. 3:30 meet and greet. So we'll be down there. Come say hi. We're hanging out. We're just going to hang out by the very center. And by the way, let's show you where we're at as well, our location. This is Galaxy Park. This one's going to be easy. We're right in the center. Just look for us. We'll be right in the center of everything, which will be kind of fun for us. Our pop-up will be there. So head into Galaxy Park. You'll probably be hearing us there. But we're going to hang out with you guys. So at 3:30, we'll start our meet and greet. At 5 o'clock, we'll start doing our pre-show. What's a pre-show, Eric? Well, that's where people can ask us questions. We'll get on the microphones. We'll answer some stuff. We'll talk about the podcast. Maybe not so much the LA Galaxy, because we'll have 90 minutes of talking about the LA Galaxy coming up. But ask us about the podcast, that type of thing. And then we can rock and roll at 5:15. We're going to start that. We have AJ De La Garza. We have Tom Braun coming in. And then at 6:45, live show ends. Why 6:45, Eric? Because we want to give everybody almost an hour, almost an hour to get back in the stadium and be able to go ahead and have some fun. So we're not going to press you. And by the way, we need time too. We got to take stuff down, put stuff away, and then get into the stadium before everything kicks off. And I think that gives us nice time to do that. All this presented by Purina, by the way. So big shout out to Purina.
Yeah.
I know. I'm stoked they were able to work with us on this and that we get to bring this to you. So we are pumped. I'm excited that you're going to be there. Kevin's going to be there. He has to cover the Landon Donovan debut with the San Diego Wave, right? So he's going to be down there, but then he's driving up. So we expect Kevin around.
There's no traffic from San Diego to LA either, so I'm sure he'll be fine.
He'll be fine. So we expect him
on a Saturday
around 6. I know Alex is going to be there. The only one I'm not sure about is Sophie, because I know she was in England. I texted her. I'm expecting that she's going to be back, but I don't know for sure she's going to be back. But otherwise, we'll have
good vibes
everybody there
for Sophie and her travels.
That's right. That's right. So, that's what we got. So this is going to be this is a game, boys and girls. Welcome to the madness. This got real exciting real fast. Like this was already you're like back with 8 games, and then now Marco Reus debut. He's going to play. I mean, I'm telling you right now. So there was an interesting thing that happened at training, Eric, and we can sort of talk about this. They were talking about Marco Reus not being out there, and Greg Vanney said, well, he's been training really hard the last couple of days. And so it was almost like he was saying, well, he's just resting for today. Not that he was on a flight. I believe, and I don't have all the details yet, but I believe that they got this through Vancouver, Canada. So I believe they were up in Vancouver, Canada, getting this through to the consulate in Canada. Remember, we talk about having to go out and then come back in, getting your passport stamped with the P-1 visa, and then coming back in on that. So I believe that it was up in Vancouver, Canada, where they got it done. I'm still waiting for 100% confirmation. But I said at one point, Eric, I said, I wouldn't be surprised. I said this in a tweet. I wouldn't be surprised if the LA Galaxy are like have a private jet standing by in order to make this happen. This is not like they wanted to make this happen. There was some advertising go along with the game where they were trying to make it happen.
Correct.
And so I think there was real pressure to get it done, but also we have to talk about how this has changed over the years, because this is something the Galaxy have struggled with, right? I mean, this doesn't feel normal. This feels extremely quick.
We were joking about earlier. I know the Discord was abuzz with Yoni Gonzalez, the infamous Yoni Gonzalez, who we spent more time talking about his transfer to the LA Galaxy than his time actually spent on the LA Galaxy. But one of the things we were mentioning, and it's not unknown that we maybe like to throw some shade at the previous administration, but this move that just happened with Marco Reus, it feels like if Marco Reus wanted to come to the LA Galaxy and there was a previous administration with, a Chris Klein or a Jovan Karofsky, that, Ricky would have been shipped to Mallorca, because he needed to clear space. Right. Marco Reus would have been brought in as a DP, and then you would have seen him debuting on September 21st because, hey, we're waiting for paperwork. It all hasn't been filed. It's got to go through the league. It just feels like that's the way the Galaxy operated for so many years. And so this is a breath of fresh air we got him across the line a week ago officially, and he's going to be ready to play this week. And so that's just, it's a super exciting thing. And part of why I was super hopeful is you saw a hint of this at the beginning of the season.
Right.
With Paintsill and Peck. It was a similar situation where they were rumored for a long time, but then the deal, pen to paper, wasn't settled, and then until pretty close to the home opener. And then they moved mountains, they made things happen, and both players, I don't know if both players was at the same game, but within quick succession, I know Paintsill was available pretty quickly, and then Peck was also available pretty quickly. So that gave me a hint that whoever is behind the scenes, pulling the strings, pulling the right levers, finding the right people in the right buildings, getting cell phone numbers of whoever they need to get a hold of to, have the keys to the consulate in Vancouver or Guadalajara or wherever they need to go. It sounds like they know what they're doing at this point. So it's really exciting to see, that this is the situation they're at, because with 8 games left in the season, you don't want to, Mr. Peak at the right time is going to tell you this, you don't want to start integrating him in and then hopefully it's working by the playoff run. I think 8 games is a good segment, because this is what we saw at the beginning of the season. 8-10 games, we saw the Galaxy figure out who they are, and then that middle stretch is really when they started humming. So now adding this new piece, we're going to get 8 games, figure out who they are, and then they'll be ready to hit the ground and peaking at the right time.
There's an international break still coming up as well, too, right? So there's going to be time. Remember, we talked about how, like, there's only 8 games left, but that it stretches all the way until October, right? So you're like, wait, how does that? Yeah,
the weird schedule when you look at when the final actually is played. Yeah,
right. So you go through that. So the whole idea is there's an international break coming in. There's time to adjust and sort of make this happen. So I think that is. Would you like to hear the names of the LA Galaxy heroes who pulled off I'm going to say like a heist of a P-1 visa? I mean.
And I love this also because we had Will Kuntz on last week, and he gets a lot of the credit,
right,
and deservedly so. But one thing that I like is that we make sure that everyone eats in Kuntz's kitchen, and it's not a one-man operation. There are a lot of people who are, if you want this to work, you need a lot of people putting in the hours, and it sounds like we're going to shout them out right now.
We're going to shout them out. Plus, I will say that whenever your name gets mentioned, you ratchet up on the "we want you on the podcast" list. So this first person, we want on the podcast immediately. Gordon Kleshtin, Senior Director of Player Personnel. That's Sasha Kleshtin's brother, as you all know. But Gordon has been working with the Galaxy for a while. He is the Senior Director of Player Personnel. He is one of the guys who got this done. Zach Merchetti. I don't know if people know Zach, but you've seen Zach in like every video going through the airport or, moving, or whenever you see 3 LA Galaxy players at the DMV, there's a Galaxy guy who's there. That's Zach, right? Like Zach Merchetti. Zach Merchetti is the senior manager of team operations, right? The dude books flights, buses, make sure all the gear gets to where it's supposed. I mean, we have to talk to Zach about everything he encompasses. This is a serious full-time job. I don't know how Zach does. This is a lot.
When you mentioned the gear and as being I have questions for Zach because I remember, I know Kevin Acevedo was the one who tweeted out when the LA kit it was no longer going to be used. I know with the retro kit now being brought in, that's most likely going to be used as an alternate kit, but. Right. I want to know, is this planned in advance? How often do you know? What kits are you going to be wearing on what days? Like, who's in charge of that? This is stuff that I'm interested in. So again, I want to hear the people behind the scenes in the kitchen who are making it happen. So again, open invitation to everyone to kind of explain how the sausage is made.
And last person who's getting a shout out. First time ever mentioned on this podcast. Like we could talk about Zach. We talked about Gordon. We have never talked about Oliver Curry. Oliver Curry is a player personnel specialist. He was a soccer player at George Washington University, so already way high up in my books. My sister went to GW, so I'm a GW fan. So if you went to GW, I like you immediately. So that Oliver Curry apparently into Canada with a plum, throwing some weight around. I don't know what they did. So I was talking to people inside, and we were sort of again. I said very sort of low confidence that this was going to get done. Never said it couldn't get done, just said low confidence it was going to get done in time. I think the Galaxy felt the same way, mostly because the people I talked to said that. So they were very much like, hey, I don't think it's going to get there done, but if it does, we're going to try to pull it off, right? The fact that Reus wasn't there today was a little bit of a hint, which is actually why my 20% went up to 30%. I was like, I think they're trying to do something. Like, it just feels a little weird, like just a little, but they were very much during the press conference at 11 o'clock this morning. They were telling us, Greg Vanney was like, I don't think he's going to play. Right. And basically he said, if it's going to happen, it has to happen now. Well, apparently it happened now.
It was happening now. It was happening literally as he was saying the word now.
Yeah. So the other part about this is that during that press conference, Scott French was asking Greg Vanney something, and Greg Vanney said, "Hey, so if you could put in a good word for us, Scott, sort of like saying, hey, maybe you could help us out with this visa thing." Well, Damian Calhoun tweeted out, Vanney told Scott French to take care of it, and boom, it's done. That's what happens.
That's how you get things done. We found the real goat of the conversation.
Yeah, Logan, by the way, asked about Michael Stevens. Michael Stevens, very much a part of bringing in the players, doing all that stuff. So Michael Stevens way high on the list of guys who I want to talk to on this podcast as well. He's on that list. Just in this particular case for the visa, I was told these 3 guys are the guys. So these are your heroes. So if you see Oliver Curry, if you see Zach Merchetti, if you see Gordon Kleshtin, you owe them a high five. We
salute you.
You have to imagine any additional game you can get from Marco Reus, any game you get him in gives you, I would imagine, at least at this point, a better chance of winning, right?
100%.
And so, the earlier you get him in, the more integrated he can be in before the playoffs. And yes, we are going to talk about playoffs as well, because we actually have our first playoff clinching scenario is coming up this weekend.
This weekend already.
Somebody can clinch a playoff spot. It's not the Galaxy, but somebody can clinch a playoff spot, and it's happening, right? Like, this could happen. Yeah. So we are now into clinching scenario season, all right, with 8 games left in the season. So, there's a level of effort that's involved in these in these P-1 visas. There's also a level of luck that's involved
I think so.
in this
I think
stuff,
that's
right?
fair to say that, and that's not a slight in any way. We've heard about consulates being involved and going to other places. Politics very much in the forefront of the news right now. There's a political game to a lot of this stuff, and this is one of those things where knowing the right people or knowing the right people to call to get these situations going. I without sharing too much, I'm familiar with some situations where if you know the right person, you're able to kind of make things happen behind the scenes. Not that this is behind the scenes or off the record, but this is there are ways to get things done if you really want to get them done. And not that it's not above the book, but at the same time, if you want to get something done, you have to use all of your resources and everything to make it work. So I think that's the exciting thing to see, that the Galaxy they're all in this regard. So we need Marco Reus to be integrated. So we're going to do whatever we need to do to move mountains in that regard.
I said that championship teams are built from top to bottom, right? You have to have everybody, quite honestly, from the parking attendant to the ticket takers to everybody. Everybody has to work well in championship teams. It helps usually because those teams are winning too. But it matters that everything is sort of working. This is a front office that is now working in harmony. This is a functioning front. This has not been a functioning front office in so long. It feels new and exciting. It's like, I go back
when have we ever smiled talking about the FO since 2016, 2017?
Yeah, it feels weird almost to say it, but this is a functioning front office. You had to hustle. You had to effort this. You had to pull every string that you possibly could pull. You had to know who to pull. And by the way, I'm going to point out that I think we talked about on Monday, the German consulate was like at the press conference. So the German consulate wanted to help this. They wanted
talk
this
about
to
knowing
happen,
the right
right?
people. And listen, I know a guy who knows a guy. We can fast pass this thing.
Yep. So, I don't know how much that helps, but maybe it helps. Maybe they pulled some strings. Maybe the Galaxy pulled some strings. Doesn't matter. But, Oliver, Zach, and Gordon are out there trying to make it happen. I don't know if they got on Uncle Phil's private jet. I don't know if they were cruising at 40,000 feet, freaking swooping into Vancouver, going to the airport, running to the consulate, going in there, getting a passport stamped and running back on the jet. But I wouldn't be surprised if they're either on their way back or just got back, like right now. So being that the announcement sort of came with the visa, and then I think as Greg Vanney is doing the press conference, everybody's sort of like, it must be really close, right? Like it should have been like, he didn't know because he was out at training and he's not going to get updated on it until he goes into the thing. But they had to know there was a possibility it was going to happen. If it could happen, it needed to happen right then in order to make it happen.
And there very much could have been a situation where, hey, we're going to go through training. We're trying to get this done. If you don't hear by the press conference, it's probably not going to happen. So you have to go ahead to say it's not likely to happen. So that's probably why he was fed on that, because it's like, if I would have known, I would have known by now. And at that time, it feels like he did not know.
Yeah, Logan brings up a good point. If you saw the Marco Reus arrival video, he hops into Will Kuntz's car and Will's driving him around. I mean, Will's like, hey, hop in my car. Let's go. You don't need a limo. Right? I got you. I'll drive around. The whole day. I'm not saying Will's car isn't nice. Looked like it was nice enough, but like he's like, hop in the car. We're going.
But those are the little touches, right? Because you can throw them in an Uber or get the Tahoe to come pick them up, and then they sit in the back and they're on their phone with their agent and you meet them at the next spot. But when Will's it's you're having the conversation, you're continuing you're building that relationship. It's those little things where you don't think about it, and maybe it's not even intentional. Maybe it's just the way the will is wired. But those little things make a difference.
It's always in the details, right? It's whenever you do something well, it's because you know what to do in the general sense, but you get all the little things. It's about knowing what you want to do, getting it done, and then being able to expand on the details, because the details are what make it right? You know you're throwing a dinner, right? So you're going to have the tablecloth out, and you already know, tablecloth, silverware, it's already ingrained. You know exactly how you're supposed to do it, and you put it out there. And then you're like, oh man, let me grab these flowers over here. This would look nice, because you didn't have to worry about the other stuff because you already knew how to do it. And that's what you're getting from this entire front office now. It's changed completely. Somebody was pointing out, by the way, in the Discord and here, and I think even on Twitter, you go back to the fan boycott and everything that happened in the fan boycott. And listen, you can make arguments that the fan boycott had nothing to do with Chris Klein eventually getting fired. I would argue against that. I think that does put some pressure, but the Galaxy were also very bad in that stretch. So it was likely somebody was going to get fired anyway, right? So, but having said that, that since those dark days, we always talk about the roller coaster ride, 2009, right? Or you had 2008, which was a horrible year, and then 2009 you go to the MLS Cup, which was this is it. This is a Galaxy.
We're finally back.
Nope. And you get smacked, right? And it's like, oh. And then 2010, you're like, well, of course you're going to get there this year, win the Supporters Shield, cruising, eliminated by Dallas. It's the roller coaster. It's the ups and downs. You have to find the valleys sometimes before you can find the peaks. And it feels like the Galaxy are climbing that lift hill right now. And that's a good place to be, on the ascent and not on the descent, right? And for a while, the Galaxy have been spiraling into the drain. So it's funny that this thing, getting a visa, triggers this response from people, right? Especially from us. We talk about the Galaxy all the time. This is not small. This is gigantic. And it's weird that triggers this response, I think.
Yeah. It's funny. We're gonna do our thing. We're bring it back to ourselves and our sporting accomplishments. I mentioned that I played in the softball team. Mentioned I pulled the hammy. Playing in a competitive league when you thought it was going to be a beer league with a bunch of dads. This last game, we lost by about 20 runs. I think we hit whatever the limit was. But the very last batter, someone on our team hit a home run, and we celebrated that thing because we hit a home run for the first time all season long. And I think that's what this feels like. You've been not conditioned isn't the right word, but we've been around struggles and failures and things where it just seems like you just keep tripping over your own shoelaces. And it's like, man, how do we keep getting this wrong? So when you do have something where maybe this is just how it should be,
right?
When you're the LA Galaxy and you have access to, the people and the Uncle Phil's, private jet and all these different things going on, this is the way it should be. But when you haven't seen it, when you see it, it creates this big fervor, this big celebration. We're celebrating like we signed an extra player, but it's still just Marco Reus. It's just a matter of getting him to play. So it's okay to celebrate these victories now. We're going to move to a place where it's not going to be a big deal. But right now, I think it's fair. It's okay. It's okay to be happy about this. You don't have to talk people down. Let people enjoy things. Let people have fun with it.
Having hope for the future is a nice thing to have for Galaxy fans, right? Like you're like, not only am I enjoying the present right now, but I think it can get better, right? And that's
absolutely. That's where I feel like right now, because I think this season, I don't want to say it was a complete surprise. I think sitting in first place into the final 8 games, I think that is a surprise. So that's fair in that regard. But I think there's still another level. There's another place for this team to jump, and you can roll the dice, and with parity in this league, and anything could happen in playoffs. And we saw the Leagues Cup with the way teams get knocked out, and you never know what's going to happen. Hey, the Galaxy can make a run, this year. But I think they've also put themselves in a situation where they can be perennial contenders, and they can even make another leap in the year to come. So I'm looking forward to, obviously the playoff run this season, but also next season. It's giving me that hope. I threw away 2024 or 2023 so many times last season.
Right.
I was like, we're ready to move on to 2024, and now I'm excited for 2024 and 2025 and 2026 to see who we're going to sell down the line, and that's just an exciting thing, an exciting situation to be in.
Let's see. If Gordon Ramsay and Anthony Bourdain had a baby, it would be the master chef Will Kuntz, right? Of course, obviously, the way he cooks, right?
I thought we were going I was waiting where we were going. I didn't know where the physical appearance. Anthony Bourdain and
Gordon Ramsay
with Chef Ramsay. Yeah, that's an interesting combo.
They have Chef Will Kuntz. I think that's it for sure. Let's see. Patrick says that was from Gary. Patrick says every chef knows the hard parts of the soups and sauces, and Will was making a sauce that night, right? So that's good in there. Tim has a $2 super chat, says, hi guys, does Royce start or come off the bench? Come off the bench. Vanney was talking about him today, and Eric, you can disagree with me, but I think I will give you ample evidence to support my conclusion, which is he's coming off the bench. Vanney said doesn't know if he's 90 minutes yet, but he's been training real hard. He keeps his body in really good shape. There is some concern with Royce as well. There's injury concern that he has had a history with injuries and everything else. So Greg was asked today, how do you manage that? And he goes, well, really, it's up to Marco. He's got to take care of his body. He has to do all the day-to-day stuff. He goes, and then I'm going to work with him to make sure that he's comfortable when we play him, how we play him, that type of thing. So they're going to work in concert, it sounds like, to sort of get that done. That
gave me a lot of hope, the way he spoke at the press conference, because my not that I disliked Reus, but in terms of coming in, concerns of it being a DP spot and concerns of him taking over a starting spot in the midfield, we can be honest that he's a generational talent, but he's also, it's fair to say, the best days are probably behind him. So I was concerned, not that I didn't like, the player, but I wasn't crazy about the move, thinking, well, where's he going to fit in the starting lineup? Who's he going to replace? With injury history, how is that going to work out? Can you count on him to be consistent? But when he was talking, the affability to say, hey, I'm not the youngest guy anymore, so he knows the situation he's in. He's coming in. It sounds like he's coming in to play a role. It doesn't sound like he's coming in to be the centerpiece of this team. And I think Alex Ruiz El Nino mentioned it, that the Galaxy having Marco Reus as a luxury item is the perfect situation, because him coming off the bench very much changes the game. I think when you look at who are game changers off the bench, what can you do? Who's going to scare the opposition? When you have someone, okay, we just ran for 60 minutes. We survived, the three Ps coming at us, but, so we just got to hold on for a few more minutes. And then what happens? Marco Reus comes on and he's now going to play that, pull the strings in the midfield and make things happen, or maybe, exploit the wings, with his giving it all in those last 20 to 30 minutes. That's a game changer. And so that's something that can make a huge difference. So I'm excited that he's most likely, to me, the tea leaves that I read is that there's not, Will Kuntz mentioned it, is that the only position where you maybe see him starting is with squad rotation. Right. But in terms of your best 11, Marco Reus is going to be your 12th guy, your 13th guy off the bench, depending where you're going. And that's, in that situation, that's fantastic for the Galaxy.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised you see 30 minutes from Marco Reus. I mean, I think he's more than fit for that. So that's what I'm expecting. I'm trying to see. I brought some other stuff in here. This was my tweet about the LA Galaxy going to fly that dude on a private jet, and then championship teams. Okay, good. I just want to make sure that we covered all of it. And then everybody saw this video, right, where Marco Reus was already training before he got his visa and all that stuff. Apparently that doesn't matter anymore.
Cover your eyes. Cover your eyes.
Yeah, don't avert your eyes. But to give you an idea of sort of where that dude might be playing, Marco Reus. Do you want to see a cool T-shirt?
Yeah. Oh, okay. Are we just
we got it.
Shirt?
We got it. Well, this is
Meatloaf.
Yeah. My wife got, she's a wonderful, wonderful, amazing human being. Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, the astute viewers noticed when we cut to single cam hammer, we know things are happening behind the scenes.
I was wondering if you'd pick up the hint without me being like, hey, you take this.
Yeah. I thought whenever I talk for way too long. Yeah. I know how to vamp. I figured this thing out.
Well, the funny thing is I connected my headphones through about half of that. And I was like just sitting here sort of zoned out for a second as I was looking at the t-shirt, because I was trying to find all the information to sort of do it. But the folks over at Homage, this one we're not, Eric's still there, I promise. I just want you guys to see on this. And if you're on the podcast, I will try to explain it to you. The folks over at Homage, HOMAG, Homage, put together this awesome T-shirt. I have to sort of put it up in front of my face so that way you guys can see it. I really like this design. It's sort of a throwback design. It's the idea is to be like throwbacky, but not be exactly what it was. And so they sent this awesome T-shirt to me. By the way, the T-shirt quality on this, Eric, is like you're soft. Oh,
you're preaching to the choir as someone who owns many a Homage wrestling T-shirt. And, they make a killer shirt, awesome design. So I'm glad to see them getting in the MLS game and changing up the designs. I think when they first came up, you get your basic logos, your entry level, right? And then now that they're coming up with those designs, it looks amazing. So shout out to you for getting the gift from Homage. Again, great looking shirt.
I actually put the, I don't normally wear a lot of Galaxy stuff because I try to remain as objective as I think I can be, as in most places, and I think I do a pretty good job of it. So I'm not afraid to sort of call out my own faults at times, and the love fest that just happened earlier was probably one of those faults. But at the same time, I think there's such a huge change. I'm more than willing to give them credit for it.
You're also corner of the Galaxy. So
it
again, is. I think it's also fair to show a little bit of love when love is ready to deservingly be given.
For 16 years, it's not like I do it. I love the free soccer. Quite honestly, it is really really awesome to do. But that was really nice. Such a nice start over at Homage. You can find them on Instagram at Homage, HOMAGE. Right, they have that shirt. It's a sweet shirt. I might even bring it to the to the live show on Saturday. Which, by the way, can we talk about like just all the craziness that I have in the next? I actually have a memorial service to go to tomorrow. One of the people at the train club, one of my good friends passed away a little while ago. And so it's his memorial service, and so he was only 32. It sucks. There's a whole bunch of things that suck in that, but really great guy. Really like him, so I have that tomorrow. Then tomorrow night, I usually would put all the live show stuff into my car and get that ready, but I can't because my parents are throwing a party because they throw parties in August to celebrate summer and all that fun stuff. So every Friday in August they have a party, which is so nice. My parents, right? And so they're doing that. And then Saturday morning I have something at the train club, and then I'm done with that at noon, and then I go at 1. I have to basically be on my way up because we have unload and stuff to set up at 2, and then we have to be ready for 3:30 and blah blah blah, the whole deal. So
I was going to pause. You know who else is having an end summer bash? The LA Galaxy at Galaxy Park at 3:30. We'll be doing our meet and greet. Is that how it's done? Did I do that right?
Yeah, you did it perfectly. You did it perfect. If I was faster, I would have thrown up the graphic while you're doing it, and we would have had it. We would have had it all gone. Let's see. Duncan, $10 super chat, sending well wishes to my cousin Tony, who is currently undergoing chemo but is still showing up for the live pod and the game on Saturday. Wow. Truji, I can't wait to see Tony there. Tell him to come on up and say hi to us. We are very much want to see him, Duncan, and we'll say hi for sure.
Yeah, so. Shout out to Tony Strong. Yeah, let's check it out.
Yeah. And by the way, everybody's saying thank you. Sorry for loss. I appreciate that. Thank you. It's well taken. Good guy, and we're gonna miss him. So I'm glad that we get to sort of celebrate. I'm very much one that I think you need to take time to grieve these things, and we've had that time, and now it's time to get together and grieve it together, and then you can keep that person, I think, a little bit better. So hopefully that works out for everybody. I know it'll be good for me tomorrow. So I'm excited to see that. So So and I know excited is the wrong word, but it's true. I'm excited to go there and be with those people. Yeah.
Funerals and weddings, you hear that cliche all the time. It's the only time maybe you get to see, members of your family or certain people who you may not see all the time. And it's okay to acknowledge that hey, we don't see these people in the setting every single day. They're not our everyday workmates, or, we don't live with everyone in the same house. So sometimes it takes these tragedies to bring the people together, and when you talk about it, you're talking about, someone who's a member of the train club who you've been so embedded in, how amazing it is to get together with people who had the same hobby and are going to have memories of this person to share it and have that. That's an exciting thing. So I think you're totally within bounds to say that.
This podcast is staying true to form, covering everything from the LA Galaxy's rise to loss,
to life celebrations,
to life celebrations, we got it all covered. And everything else that goes on there. I'll tell you, man. Sometimes I wonder about us. I wonder what this podcast is. If it's really for me, is it for me? Remember you? So real talk. Eric goes, "Are we having a podcast on Thursday?" And I said, "Yeah." I go, my meeting that I thought I was going to have tonight actually was this morning, so I didn't have to worry about it. And Eric goes, "Oh man," he goes, "I kind of wanted a break." By the way, do not shun this man for that.
You're the wrong guy to tell that.
No, I am and I'm not. I've told this 100 times. There are every week at least one of the shows I don't want to do, right? And it's just like, oh man, I can't believe. As soon as the lights come on, as soon as I'm sitting here in front of the desk, as soon as everything's going, I love doing it. So it's just like you get there. But no, I get it. Sometimes you want to break. And I was like, hey, he goes, man, I wanted to break. I go, try telling that to the guy who does it twice a week. He's like, yeah, okay, you're right.
It's more of the circumstance I've mentioned in the last couple of weeks, kind of, with a change in jobs, having to wear pants to work, this whole thing, I'm beat, I'm exhausted, and I was looking forward to going all in and putting my full energy into Saturday. So now you get the preview tonight, and then you get the real deal in person. The live shows, if you haven't been, I know we've had one at TAPS, we've had one at the stadium before. Live shows are the way to go. So again, I really love the live shows and getting there and meeting with the people and getting in there. So again, it should be a lot of fun.
I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to that. One of the things that is happening, and Logan's in the chat room, and I want to make sure that I give a shout out as well, because Logan keyed me into this once again. The LA Galaxy Unified team will be playing at 10 p.m. after the game, right? So this is such a great event. I love this. Whenever I get out of the locker room, a lot of times, whenever the Unified team is playing, I actually try to make my way back down towards the field so I can watch them play. And so it's going to be a lot of fun. Logan is one of the coaches there, so we wanted to shout out to Logan. Yeah, shout out to Logan for doing. Man, it's just amazing. So the LA Galaxy Unified team will be playing against the Atlanta Unified team. these are great things. Stick around in your seat afterwards. Hopefully the LA Galaxy win and you have that. You want to bask in the glow of awesomeness. We'll bask in it for a little bit longer. You can stay in the stadium a little bit later,
Yeah, one of my favorite things during this time of the summer is the Little League World Series, just because how awesome is it, that these kids have the opportunity to go out there and be on ESPN and have their families, cheer them on and hype them up. And it's such a feel-good, exciting thing. And you get the same vibes from the unified team. What it means to step out on the pitch at Dignity Health Sports Park, and for the people who want to stick around and cheer them on. Imagine walking through that tunnel, having Galaxy fans there, cheering them on, supporting them, singing for them, chanting for them. You know what that means. And so to have that inspire people like Logan, that's probably why they do it, because of what it means to the people who are on that squad. And hopefully we'll see some bangers, and we'll get not only 3 points in the regular game, but the unified makes it a whole 6-point tally against Atlanta United.
Yeah, and that's what you want to see. So, get out for this. This is always one of those good things. Cosmo will be out there. Stay in your seats a little longer. Yeah, like I said, you get to bask in the awesomeness of being in the stadium when it's a little bit quieter.
Yeah,
you can move.
And you don't have to worry about traffic.
By the way, Philip, $2 super chat. A really good question.
Yeah,
this is a good question. How are you getting from the airport? Because Philip wants to know, is Kuntz going to pick you up from the airport? I think you should call Will and ask him. Say, hey,
why not?
Yeah,
why not? I mentioned last week I want to hear the unfiltered Royce story. I know we got executive Will Kuntz on the show last week. I want to take the ride. I didn't see what he was driving. What's he driving? I imagine a big SUV.
It's a bigger SUV. Yeah, it's enough for all of your accoutrement.
Yeah. I'll be doing one carry-on. I travel light. I've done this before.
Sure you will.
But yeah, I'll be happy if Will wants to pick me up. Right now it's a plan to get the Uber from John Wayne Airport, but we'll see how it works out.
Let's see. Tony has a good question. I actually think this is good. He goes, hate to bring up a sensitive subject, but what do you think happens to the Galaxy when Uncle Phil passes away? That's actually a very good thought experiment. I haven't really thought about it. I think the Galaxy, I think AEG gets sold. I mean, that sort of seems like they were on that path for a little while, that AEG was going to sell the company, and that perhaps that spins off the Galaxy into something else. Mm-hmm. I think that for the most part, you shouldn't worry about that, only because I think the Galaxy are one of the highest ranking, highest worth teams in all of Major League Soccer. And I think there's going to be plenty of people who are interested in buying the LA Galaxy whenever something like that happens, if it happens. And they could sell the Galaxy tomorrow. But, Phil loves this team. We were under, I think, the impression, and it was probably the false impression, that maybe he didn't have as much say in the club anymore, and he wasn't as. I think that was wrong, and it seems like he's doing just fine. The whole problem is
there's a reason the boss is the boss. Yeah,
it's just, to me, I would love Phil to be a little more open, especially in these next 10 years, right? Just because it would be nice to be able to pick the brain of a guy who is largely responsible for Major League Soccer still being around. Him and the Crafts, I mean, really kept the league afloat, right? And so to not be able to tell that story, or at least have him tell that story, and I'm not saying to me, I don't think we're special enough. I mean, would we take Uncle Phil on this podcast in a heartbeat anytime? You want to do it in the middle of the night, we'll fire up a live stream. Yeah. So we would love to do it. But I don't think that's ever going to happen. But I would like to see that. That's the only thing I sort of regret, is that I would like to hear it from his side of things.
Well, you mentioned it. How often do we celebrate people, when they're gone? Let's celebrate them now. I was going to scold Tony for bringing the show down. Here we are, Vibes FC, everything's good. We signed, and then he's like, what happens when Uncle Phil passes away? So I was going to scold him, but you're right. Let's give Uncle Phil the flowers now. And I think you're right. I think we'll cross that bridge when we get there. I think AEG, part of the Galaxy's success, is tied to the group that is AEG and all of the accoutrements that come with that, and what they're able to get, the benefits, from things outside of just the LA Galaxy. But I think down the line, you've seen this happen with other ownership groups or other big, corporations who maybe have ownership stake in teams that get sold off, and maybe the team becomes its own entity on its own. And you're right, the Galaxy have the name recognition to where they'll attract a group or someone to step in, and that'll be an era for another time. But for right now, we'll enjoy the era we're in.
Yeah, I think it's a good call. Let's get to John, $2 super chat. Will there be a live stream of the pod on Saturday? Unlikely. It's so hard to do. I don't get great coverage at Galaxy Park either, so it's probably
the
audio's
feasible. Never right.
Yeah, the audio's never perfect on that and the whole deal. Now, what we will do is we will record it and we will put that out. I actually talked to Purina about them. Like, are you guys cool if we put this out as a podcast afterwards? I'm like, I don't know what you want us to do, that type of thing. They're like, absolutely, please. I'm like, okay, just checking. So there will be a podcast put out. I would say don't expect that like Saturday night because I'm going to be sleeping. I'm going to be exhausted.
That's also fair. Yeah.
I think.
Hey, here's an idea. That's Monday's show.
That's Monday's. Yeah. I mean, yeah. Then I don't have to do a show on Monday. I don't think so. Nice try.
Oh, yeah.
Nice try, buddy.
The game. Yeah.
So
See, you know where I'm working from. Yeah.
By the way, if anybody's ever going to start a podcast, do something like on history. It's called evergreen content.
Evergreen. Yeah.
Evergreen content. You do it about history. You never have to worry about you being out of date. Yeah. You might have to update some stuff, but like you're never doing a sports podcast that focuses on the day-to-day operation of a single club. I'm just glad it's not baseball because I don't know. Yeah. I would shoot myself if it was baseball. There's too much stuff. Oh, let's go over these 6 games that we missed in between, Monday and Thursday.
It's a 3-minute pod at that point. Yeah.
Right. So the whole deal would do it, but don't ever do a sports pod. Don't. You're an idiot if you do. All right. Just leave it alone.
Trust us. We know we're idiots.
Yeah. The relationships will suffer. All right. Your wives will not like you. Your husbands will not like you. It's just, you don't want to do it. So anyway, that's where we go. Luis or Luis. I never know. It's one or the other.
Feels like Luis. Yeah.
Luis,
I think it's okay okay to profile here. Yeah.
Okay, sure. Okay. Luis. And Luis, if it's Luis, you tell me. You tell me in the bottom because I'll yell at Eric.
Fair.
Luis, $10 super chat. Birthday shout out to is it Renan? Happy birthday. Did I get it correct? Okay.
Renan sounds right. Renan, yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
Renan, yeah.
Louis, Renan. We're just going to say it every way. And then, Luis, this is up to you. Louis, it's up to you. You cut it and then play it back later, for Renan, and then we'll make it work. Yeah.
Happy birthday, Commander Cage. You the best. So there we go. Happy birthday shout out.
Commander Cage is so much easier. Shout out to Commander Cage.
Whoop. Right in. Okay. We have to do something. I want to do something mostly because it's important. And I always have so much fun whenever we do it. We have LA Galaxy breaking news. That's right. I can and I do have some details on how the LA Galaxy were able to pull off this amazing coup today to get Marco Reus back into the LA Galaxy and ready to go. One breaking news item for you right now. Marco Reus just landed. He will be back. He'll be available to train tomorrow, which means he will be available for the game, right? So all of that now has taken place. He is back in Los Angeles. The extent to which the LA Galaxy, as we were talking about, I knew it was a thing. I knew there were lots of people. Let's just say the LA Galaxy pulled every single string they had, including some Congress people.
See? I told you it was political. I knew it was political.
Yep. There's there. And then the fact that they found out, I believe, I've just got this, so I'm literally reading through it. They found out yesterday at about 4 p.m. that they were able to get in for an 8 a.m. appointment today. And They were able to book the flights, get them there, then turn it around and do it in one day, basically. Do the whole thing and get that all done and have him back. And the LA Galaxy pulled it off. So there's way more details that I can get into whenever we finally get a chance. I just want you to understand that was not a thing. Immigration lawyers were involved and did a great job. Yeah. Congress people, consulate workers, you name it. Everybody had to work on the same thing, and somebody was orchestrating this all. Gordon Kleshin probably from Ahai, and then you had Zach Merchetti, and then you had Oliver Curry. I think Oliver Curry was the guy on the ground for the LA Galaxy with Marco Reus in Canada getting it done. Which, by the way, how about that job? Like, you're like, oh, my job is to, Zach Merchetti taking the LA Galaxy players to like the Carson DMV is like still one of my favorite photos I've ever seen.
Yes, correct. That's lore that will live on forever. But this feels like they got Marco Reus Amazon same day shipping. Right. They clicked the button at 11 a.m. Right. And then at 5 p.m. He was back on American soil with a P-1 visa. So what a feat.
Yeah. So it's just anything, doing all that, getting it all done and pulling it in again. There was a lot of coordination behind there. And I just want to correctly shout it out because I think it's important. Nice. $5 super chat from Will. Josh, can you please use one of your reporter's questions to ask where the Robbie Keane statue is? I imagine hasn't been made yet, but I feel like this isn't the year next year there's going to be another statue. That's what I'm thinking. It feels
kick
that
off
way.
the season.
Yeah,
right?
I don't know if Robbie Keane is next. That's always a good argument question. Like if you want to get, if there's no right answer, right? So it's like, are you going to argue about it? Like, I don't know. Who gets the next one? Does Kobe Jones get the next one?
Yeah, that feels like the right.
That feels
the
like
right name.
It feels like it's time now, right?
Yeah.
Cienfuegos. I mean, Cienfuegos probably eventually gets one. So Cien's
Correct.
there. Robbie Keane is obviously one of those guys as well. But is it fair to Robbie Keane that the two other guys are the guys that you played with, and Robbie Keane was at one point, better? And
I wouldn't be upset if Robbie Keane was next. Could we say that? Is that fair? I think there's something to having an old guard and a new guard, like alternating.
Right.
So I think, having David Beckham, that being its own thing, Landon Donovan, even though he, played later on, he feels like old guard, like he is the LA Galaxy, icon. And so I think to go back to even before that with Kobe and then alternate back to, Robbie Keane, and then to go back to someone like a Cienfuegos. And then that feels like there's a method to the madness. If people are thinking that far ahead. So we can call Oliver
Curry.
We can call Oliver Curry, have him tell us the order of the statues, because I'm sure he's all over it.
That's it. I'm sure that's his job. So certainly there. Pescadito Ruiz is also one of those guys who possibly could be in there as well. I mean, there's a lot of them. I mean, I'll be honest. When's Bruce Arena getting his statue? When's Joe Tatino getting his statue? When is Siggy Schmidt could get his statue? I mean, I think you have a coach's wing, and you just start putting them like there's a big long table, and you start putting the coaches like at the table.
Or in the center. Yeah, they're coaching.
Yep.
The circle.
Statues. Yeah, I like it. So yeah. It's one of those things. Kobe Jones to me still feels like definitely he's a statue
Correct.
person as well. So
I think we've done. I don't know if this was a COVID thing or
probably was.
We've done like a Mount Rushmore. Who gets the statue? Who are your four or something like that? And then for our avid listeners, go back, find that show for us. Right?
Yeah.
Someone has the time to go back and do that. 2 shows a week. Let's go back. 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, it sounds easy. Let's get you some injury updates for the LA Galaxy as well as we move on and get you ready for this game against Atlanta. Injury updates on Jovalic. Vanney says he's extremely close to being in consideration for this weekend, but more than likely will be ready for St. Louis next week. It is like he says in my tweet I said he doesn't rule him out though, right? He's not ruling him out. He's saying depending on what happens tomorrow, and this is Thursday and tomorrow's Friday. Friday is an important day to sort of be like, how's everybody feeling? Who are we going to make our decisions on? Who's getting the start? That type of thing. Then you can make your decision. So doesn't rule out Jovalic. If Jovalic shows up tomorrow, feels good, looks good, says I don't have any pain, I'm ready to go, Dejan Jovalic could play. He's not going to start, but he could play in this. And again, the sooner you get him integrated, the better. Integrating at home versus on the road is usually a little easier, but I think it's going to be against St. Louis.
Yeah, this was news that kind of bummed me out a little bit, just because he's been out for so long. He's been shut down, for the League's Cup, and so I was waiting for this to be a game where, okay, now we got the full team back. We got our real forward in there, and I was ready for this to start moving in the right direction. So I was a little disheartened to see, that he wasn't in the lineup. Not that it's his fault or anything, but it's just one of those, oh man, I didn't think this was as serious as it was. But it also makes you think back to earlier in the season when Vanney was alluding to, Jovalic is playing, but he's working through some things. So he had something was already in place, and it just reached a point where it needed to be, it became a more serious issue than maybe we realized what it was.
Yeah, it seems that way. Update on Julian Aude. 1 to 2 weeks out still, but getting very close. So they expect he'll probably start training next week, full training the week after, and available after that, right? Vanney went into a whole thing about managing some pain and how he's sort of doing it. And it's just like this one thing that's still kind of bothering him, and they don't think it's anything major. They think it's good. Like they think they like the position they're in. They're just not ready yet. And so again, 1 to 2 weeks. Probably, I would like to get him back sooner than later, but shout out to John Nelson for holding down the absolute. I mean,
it's been fantastic. When you talk about depth, they have depth. We've been covered.
It's amazing. So it's one of those. And then the last one is Miro Garces, not available. Should return to full training next week. So we expect next week possibly putting him available for that St. Louis game. That was the update on the injuries, but there was more, because when you go into a break, Eric, like the LA Galaxy did, You also get to ask the coach about, and Scott French had asked a very philosophical question to Greg Vanney. If you go back and watch the presser, and I was next, and so Greg was coming to me. I'm like, my question's not going to be nearly as philosophical as Scott's. I'm like, we talked about the injuries, and he sort of gave me the updates on the guys again, even though we had already talked about it. And I didn't. I'm like, outside of the quote unquote big injuries, everybody's hurt at this point. We already knew it coming in. There was a condensed schedule. Everybody has little issues, that type of thing. Did the break help get those guys back to 100%, right? And he was like, yeah. He goes, of course it did. He goes, by the way, we played a game against Phoenix last week. They had Phoenix come over and play a game against them, so that way they could again have it. And he goes,
we suspected that they'd find either someone who'd been knocked out of League's Cup or someone. We knew this was going to, be something that happened behind closed doors. So excited to hear about that.
Yeah. So there was a scrimmage against Phoenix. That's all we know. There was a scrimmage, but basically he said, we balanced guys from who needed some time to guys that we wanted to rest some more. And so there was a nice balance and everybody got through it. He goes, we needed to make sure we kept everybody moving because you don't want to sit that long. He goes, but the scrimmage was nice. We did that. And we got to rest the guys that we wanted to rest, that we're trying to get back to 100%, who aren't even on the injured list, right? There's guys like Ricky Pouge, who we know have been dealing with stuff, right? There's guys like Mark Delgado, who we know has some little issues here and there. Almost everybody on that field right now, whenever they went into the break, had some issues. And so he thinks they actually got back pretty good on some of that.
So that's a win. I think Guesman Brugman is another name that was in there. He, not that he struggled, but, he didn't look like the Guesman Brugman of old. So it's, more time rested, not having to exert and hurt himself and put himself in situations where he was going to be in bad shape. So I think this is exciting. We'll see where it goes.
By the way, I acknowledge that I have a glass and I'm drinking out of a glass straw, and that's pretentious as all get up. Like, it is the most I've seen myself and I'm like, oh man, I don't even like that. Maybe we should drink in front of mirrors more often to see how pretentious we look whenever we do it. I get it for sure. Let's get to super chat from executive producer Herb. $30 super chat. Hey Josh, hey Hammer. We'll listen to the recording. Hope to find you guys on Saturday. Not to sidetrack, but do you ever watch the show Air Disasters? Lots of airplane terminology on there. Oh my God, which pilot doesn't love air disasters?
Oh man, I'm unfamiliar.
Oh my God,
Herb threw me for a loop here. Again, I appreciate the super chat and looking forward to see him at the meet and greet. But air disasters,
I think History Channel, and then they go over airplane crashes. Like, they talk about.
Sounds like fun.
The air was thick with fog as Flight 373 departed Newark. Little did they know, in just 10 minutes they would be plummeting towards the ocean. It's like that type of thing. It's like, all right, so it's good. And then they use the appropriate terminology whenever they need to. But it's. As a pilot and somebody who went to school in the airline aviation sector, I went to school for that. That was my major was aeronautical management technology with an emphasis on airline management. So on the business side of airlines, we used to go over. One of our classes was literally to read NTSB accident reports and summarize them and talk about what went wrong, what the factors were, and a whole idea. There's this idea, and I think it happens in any dangerous thing that you do, whether it's quite honestly, driving a car also does this, but especially in flying, where you want to get your you want to fill your bag of experience up before your bag of luck runs out. And a lot of ways that you can do that is by reading this stuff. You're trying to gain experience from the knowledge of others, right? And so it's drilled into pilots that you go. And so the air disasters thing, 100%. What was it? There was two 747s collided in Tenerife. One was on the runway, one was, I think, taking off. One was crossing the runway. So 747 is one of the biggest airplanes in the world, and they're fully so it's one of the most deadliest air disasters ever. But it talks about the whole thing. It was a foggy day, the whole deal. There was some lax control there, but one took off into the other one while it was crossing the runway. So just crazy stuff. Go watch Air Disasters. Big fan, Herb. Thank you.
Yeah, that threw me for a loop. Shout out to Herb for that tangent. Nice work.
I can always count on our listeners to throw me sideways. We will absolutely go sideways on Saturday as well. That is prime sideways. Yeah, exactly. Pottermus, by the way, $5 super chat. Thank you for that. Appreciate you. Let's see, $5 super chat from Aaron. I'm 20 minutes behind, but I hope you have said the correct. What is it? Homage. Oh, so homage. Homage.
Oh, homage. Okay. I thought it'd be AH.
Homage. He wants us to go more French. Irregardless, he wants us.
You hit the H. Homage.
hard.
That's good.
I'm
for
a
the pod,
hard H guy. Gary, by the way, thank you, Aaron, as always, correcting my language. 20 minutes later this time, however. $5 super chat. Appreciate it. Gary, $5 super chat. COG rocks. Thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate it. Football
Shout
Mania in there for $1 super chat. So, yeah, always shout out Gary. Always shout out Aaron. Pottermus as well. Always our thing. Philip, $2 super chat. Hammer, are you aware of the plane crash in Cerritos? Yeah.
Down the street from my house. So air disasters. I've lived. I have not lived air disasters. But there is a story about my brother. Shout out my brother. Was looking out and was saying, he was younger and he was, getting out of a bath and, he was looking out the window and he said, "Mom, look, this plane's falling." And my mom, again, Freud there.
Yes.
Again, there's a lot to uncover here. My mom, told him, "Oh, come on, you're being silly." And then, seconds later, what they felt, which was essentially felt like an earthquake because it, the plane went down, hit a house,
right.
Essentially down the street from where we lived. So plane crash in Cerritos. If you haven't looked that up, it was a devastating, horrifying event. And that's my hometown, not a claim to fame, but it's definitely something that, put the city on a map. Interesting situation.
From pilots, it's claim to fame. Everybody knows about the Cerritos. Mr. Provino says he saw it. So Matt's there, rocking and rolling. Bob, by the way, $5 super chat. My contribution for the Root Beer Fund, A&W, Mug, Barks, Dads, IBC, whichever tickles your sarsaparilla. Always appreciate that. Let's see. We got that one. We got football. Philip, Hammer. Yep, and that was the one we talked about that. Okay, good. We're good. We're caught up. You guys hit them all in a row there. I had to panic a little bit. Some interesting stuff. There was the In-N-Out crash that happened, or was it Carl's Jr.? Carl's Jr., I think. There was a crash in Orange County that happened in the auto mall that's just down the road from my office. And I remember that as a little kid. So that was one where a private jet flipped over in the wake turbulence of another one and dove down into the auto mall and crashed right there. So yeah, good times, man.
What an episode! What an episode, folks.
We are all over this.
Oh man.
Okay, let's get to a little bit of this game because we're starting to bump up against time. And we talked about it a little bit on Monday. I just want to go over some of the things that you're expecting from Atlanta and some of the things that I sort of looked at and said, okay, this could be. I went back and looked at Atlanta's last 3 or 4 games. They don't want the ball. They're a counterattacking team, which, by the way, works for the Galaxy and doesn't work for the Galaxy. Like a lot of times I think the Galaxy work better against teams that really want the ball and try to control them.
The low block is a struggle for this team, for the Galaxy team.
And I think that there's going to be chances because I think Atlanta wants to come out and score goals. It looks like they try to score goals in every game. Last time the last league game was on 7/20. It was a 2-1 win over Columbus. We've talked about Columbus, the gods that they are whenever they're playing correctly.
Yeah.
We can talk about Coach of the Year, by the way. Wilfred Nancy is still up there for me, and I think will be. It's pretty hard to knock him off. But at the same time, if the LA Galaxy finish in first in the Western Conference, then Greg Vanney taking them from 13th to 1st is a pretty big Coach of the Year shout.
Yeah, that's a great point. That it's going from MLS Cup champion to also MLS Cup champion contenders is not not tons of growth there. But to go from 13th place to first place or in a top 3 spot, there's a conversation there because it's same coach, same guy, but what did he do differently? So there's something about what he was able to make work with Atlanta. Another thing, we could talk about having difficulty breaking the low block, but we are looking at Brad Guzan and then Derek Williams, returning. So again, he was someone who's been in the lineup playing for Atlanta. So again, when we talk about the ghosts of Galaxy Pass haunting them and causing problems, we'll see if his number gets called upon and if he's someone who we look back and say, yeah, okay, we know why, he ended up on a few different teams, or, he'll be, man, this guy, we let him loose and he's making us pay for it. So that's always an interesting wrinkle to me when we talk about former Galaxy players.
Wait until they're set pieces, That's
we
Derek Williams.
know that's his bread and butter. Yeah.
Yep. That's where he's going for. Atlanta did sign a new designated player, and Alex was talking about it a little bit. I would just like to point out, I think MLS spelled his name wrong. Alexei Moranchuk, and coming from, by the way, you couldn't write this.
Atalanta.
Yeah, coming from Atalanta and going to Atlanta. It's one of those. But apparently it's Alexi with a K and not with an X. Whenever you go and look it up on transfer market. So
so the graphic was wrong.
So the
times.
Alexi, it says it with an X, and I tried looking. I'm like, I can't find this guy, and then I went up and looked. I'm like, oh no, he's right here, and it's just spelled wrong. This is apparently a $12 million euro transfer whenever it happened. So probably closer to 13 whenever you do the math for Atlanta. So this is a big deal for them. It hasn't played any minutes that I can see of, and so now in and probably ready to go against the LA Galaxy. But we'll have to see what the lineup comes in for, and clearly going to be a very talented player in Major League Soccer. You spend that much money, and you can expect that they're probably going to get this right with Garth Lagerwey there, with the money that they have from Arthur Blank. It's a real deal.
Yeah, that's the thing that makes me nervous. Whenever we do our game previews, one of the things that I do is I go and look at the roster, look at who's coming in, who is someone that you need to worry about. We'll look at the all-time record, versus Atlanta, but I don't think it's great. I don't think the Galaxy have ever beat this team, and so we know there's one of those things fighting against history in terms of our bugaboo teams. As bad as Atlanta has not been, great this season, but for whatever reason, they have our number whenever we play them, regardless of who's on the team and regardless of form. But this isn't the Atlanta who came into the league setting things on fire when the Galaxy caught them. They probably caught them at the wrong time. It seemed like Atlanta was going to be there for the pickings for the Galaxy coming here, and they might still be. But I think with the addition of Miranchuk, it makes you worried a little bit, because with the players who they let loose with Alamada and with Yakimakus, gotta make sure I say that right, they knew how to find these gems and turn them into, monsters in MLS. So that makes me nervous about Miranchuk. If they spent the money to get this player who's an attacker, it makes me a little bit nervous about what he's going to be able to do. Just the pedigree that Atlanta has had in terms of identifying these players is they've earned it. And so that's the thing that makes me nervous, is you thought, oh man, we're getting Atlanta. We're going to get them at the right time. They're not doing great. And then they signed this player who's going to be a dangerous addition and cause some problems for the LA Galaxy defense.
The other side of that is that Atlanta is they signed Marco Reus and added him as well. And we have to worry about Paintsel.
Not bad.
And we have to worry about, Peck, and we have to worry about Puig. And, and then you have Mark Delgado in there, who is just like the absolute ultimate guy covering ground and covering everybody. So there's a lot of things for Atlanta to be worried about in this, especially whenever you look at Atlanta and sort of see, again, in that 9th spot. So definitely they want some playoff runs. They want to put some playoff points in there. Stealing some points on the road would be good. LA Galaxy undefeated still at home right now for the LA. That's a huge deal. Another thing that's up on this as well is that the Galaxy currently sit at 399 regular season wins in MLS history, right? So
are we going to be there for 400? We're going to be there for 400. I think this is a big deal.
Yeah. So win percentage of 54.5% over everything that has happened. So 399, getting there for 400, something to watch as this all goes forward. But just some really interesting little tidbits here and there that sort of make this game a little bit more interesting.
Before we move on, another thing, if you haven't seen the Miranchuk press conference, it's a funny clip that's been going around. They ask him, why did you come to Atlanta? And to hear someone in a thick Russian accent say, I love hip hop. And he just started naming all of these, Atlanta hip hop artists, and I don't know if it was a bit. I don't know if someone coached him or if the guy genuinely loves hip hop, but it's an incredible clip. So I encourage you to go look for that.
Yeah, I was looking for my last. I just want to make sure coming in second to last in the Western Conference. One of the leagues. I just want to make sure that I got all the stuff.
Did we pull up the all-time record?
All-time record against Atlanta. It is 1 win, 3 losses. Yeah, 1. They last won the last time they met in Los Angeles. It was 2022. LA Galaxy won that game 2-0.
Fun times.
Okay, there you go.
All right. Do we want D ratings?
Yes.
D ratings. Here we go. So D ratings. We know they favor the home team, and they have the Galaxy as pretty heavy favorites. Galaxy at 58.1% chance to win. Atlanta with only 19.6 chance to win, and then a draw with 22.6 0.3 chance to win. If we're talking about the money line, again, if you like, the new Russian signing and you feel like the Galaxy aren't the real deal, you can get Atlanta at plus 305. So a lot of money to be won there.
Yes.
So that tells you Vegas does not believe in Atlanta crossing the country and having success here at Dignity Health Sports Park. The Galaxy at minus 135. So again, you have to put up your money to earn a little bit of money with the LA Galaxy. Over under set at 3.5 goals. We know 3 is kind of the magic number. 3.5 tells you something, minus 110 for the over, and then also minus 110 for the under at 3.5. So for me, I think coming off this Leagues Cup break, having consistent games, have working players integrating new DPs, integrating new TAM signings, I think this isn't going to be a scoring bonanza. I'd go under 3 goals. So I think that's where my brain is going. I think the Galaxy, I'm with D ratings. I think you favor the Galaxy still. But I don't think you're going to see, a 3-4-0, a spanking like I've always loved to see, especially in person, that I'm going to be there. I want the good vibes. I want the Zlatan, hat trick 7-2 win versus SKC. That's the type of environment that I like, but I don't think we're getting that in this game.
It's a whole new world, Galaxy fans. Galaxy are expected to win this game. They should win this game. Welcome to the new world order. This is how it's supposed to be. The LA Galaxy are back. They're ready to go. They want to beat people. They need to beat Atlanta. You have 4 home games left.
Correct.
Win all 4 of those home games, and you can basically guarantee yourself a top 4 in the Western Conference. I'm going to feel very confident in saying that. Win all 4 of your home games, you will be a top 4 in the Western Conference, which is what the goal was. Now, you want to get saucy with it, you have 4 away games. Win 2 of those, and you very well could be at the top of the Western Conference when all of this is lying around. Yeah. By the way, you want to keep LAFC from you having to go to LAFC? Win these next 8 games and
make them come through
Make them come through you.
Yeah. And this is the Denny Green. If you want to be who they thought you are,
right?
They are who we thought we were. Beat Atlanta. Beat the teams you're supposed to beat. And don't make it convincing. So I think there's an argument there. We'll see if it happens.
Right.
But I think if they're going to plant their flag on the ground right now, we know what the narrative is. I think MLS talking heads are still saying top of the West. They're getting a lot of love right now. They're giving them that, but we know in the back of our minds, there's a buffer. There's games still to be played with those teams that are chasing them. So right now it feels like they're paper versions of the number 1 contenders. So now go out there, prove that you deserve to be on top, and then it's not a numbers formality.
Bob, by the way, asked what Josh's favorite hip hop artists are. That's pretty easy. The Spice Girls and Ed Sheeran. So don't ask me. That's not how it is. That's not where, like, I probably have more country artists than I could name like hip hop artists, and
you can hit both. You can say Post Malone.
I was gonna say Post. I listen to some Posts right now. Yeah, absolutely. So we can do that. So all right. That's where we sit with that. We have to give our predictions guaranteed to be wrong. I'll start this time because I'm feeling saucy. 3-1 LA Galaxy. I don't know. I don't know that Marco Reus scores a goal. Obviously, obviously, the 1 goal scored by the Atlanta is definitely a set piece, and it's Derek Williams. It's going to throw. By the way, that may happen first. Everybody is going to lose it. They're going to think they're going to miss the playoffs. Everything there is. It's almost like clockwork. The Galaxy gets scored on, and it happens first, and it comes off a set piece. You just light the whole thing on fire. It doesn't matter what happened. Just light it on fire. So
I forgot about the set pieces. It's one of those things with that Seattle game was so long ago. It's like, oh yeah, that reared its ugly head again. And then of course Derek Williams on a set piece, that'd be nasty work if he were to get that done. I'm with you. I'm feeling the win. I don't think they get 3-1. Like I said, I'm going under 3.5. So I'm going to say 2-1 LA Galaxy. Don't think Royce scores, but I think he comes on and he contributes to a goal.
Just in case you were living under a rock and you didn't pay attention the first time we told you, it is Pups at the Park this weekend. Come and visit us as we have a live show at Galaxy Park brought to you by Purina. 3:30 meet and greet, 5 o'clock pre-show, 5:15 live show, 6:45 live show ends, and 7:40 is your kickoff with special guests AJ De La Garza and Tom Braun. You're going to want to be there. Get out to LA Galaxy Park. Come say hi to us. We have some giveaways. We have some fun stuff. Hammer's going to be in town. We got Alex El Nino Ruiz. We got Kevin, the Panda Baxter. I'll be there as well, and hopefully we can convince Sophie to get back over from the other side of the pond and come visit us as well. So should be a lot of fun. I'm excited. Anything else?
Get there early also. I think with Royce, that announcement now happening that the P-1 visa was approved, we know that first game bump, especially from players of that level, when their first time's in the stadium, we know Borussia Dortmund has a huge following, people who love that club, who love to travel and love to support. So I think you're going to see a lot of yellow shirts in the stands. I expect to sell out. So show up early. And if you have to show up early, go to Galaxy Park. Let's hang out, watch a live podcast, see some former players, see the president of the Galaxy, kiss a puppy, hang out, kiss a co-host. Let's get wild. Let's make things happen. Again, talking about the dogs.
Sure you are.
Yeah,
sure you are.
We'll make it work.
We'll have to keep Kevin on a leash, I'm sure. All right. Let's get out of here. Let's do this. Go ahead. Tell people where they can find you. Let's go.
All right. As always, you can find me on everything at Hammer EV9, Twitter, X, Instagram, TikTok, all the fun things at Hammer EV in the number 9.
If you're looking for me on Twitter and X, at Jay Guesman, at Galaxy Podcast, head on over to cornerthegalaxy.com. Remember, anywhere you can find your podcast is where you can find this podcast. You need to tell your friends, you need to tell your family, you need to tell your dogs. Everybody needs to be there whenever we do our live show coming up on Saturday, because if you show up, then the Galaxy will think that they need to do this more often, and we like that. We would like to continue doing this. You help us, we'll help you. We'll continue keep going. All right. Exciting game for the LA Galaxy. 7:30 p.m. kickoff time on August 24th. 7:40 is your official kickoff time. Start time 7:30 on MLS Season Pass if you are not going to be in attendance. Marco Reus available, ready, and as you learned on this show right now, back in Los Angeles and ready to train for tomorrow. There you go. That's everything that we have for you today. We hope you have a wonderful day. We can't wait to see you on Saturday for Eric the Portuguese Hammer. I'm Josh Pato Guesman. You've been listening to Corner of the Galaxy on cornerofthegalaxy.com. Have a great one, everybody.
You've been listening to the Corner of the Galaxy podcast on cornerofthegalaxy.com. You can follow the show on Twitter and Instagram at Galaxy Podcast. And be sure to check out and subscribe to iTunes, Stitcher, and Facebook by searching for Corner of the Galaxy. Fans, we thank you for listening. We ask that you be kind and courteous to your neighbors as you leave the podcast. We thank you for joining us and look forward to seeing you again. Until then, I'm Michael Araujo, and on behalf of the entire Corner of the Galaxy crew, goodbye.